Okay, today we're going to talk about similes and metaphors. The thing you need to know about similes and metaphors is they're part of what we call figurative language. Figurative language helps with describing and adding details and getting the picture in the reader's mind about what is happening, what's going on, anything about the character. So anytime you can add some similes or metaphors or some other figurative language, really adds a lot of great things to your writing, because then we get more of a picture of what's happening, and it's a different way of describing things. So let's talk about similes and metaphors. A simile compares two things using the words like or as. So in order for it to be a simile, it has to have like or as. So looking at our good example right here, we have read like a wolf eats. So we are comparing the reading to the wolf eating. That's the two things we're comparing. We're saying read like a wolf eats. So think about that. When you read that statement, what is the first thing that comes into your head? Wolf eating, they really go at it, they really tear it up. And that's what the author Gary Paulson is referring to reading. We really need to go for reading. We really need to attack it, just like a wolf eats. So read like a wolf eats. Now let's look at not an example of a simile. So we have wolves are like pets. Okay, so we have the word like here. Just because the word like or as are in our sentence doesn't automatically make it a simile. And that's something you need to remember. Just because the author uses like or as doesn't mean it's a simile. You have to break it down. Is there two things being compared? So we have wolves here and we have pets. Now, my question is, are wolves really being compared to pets in the sentence? Not really. We're more like just saying this. Okay, and does this create a picture in our head? No. We don't get any sort of picture of how wolves are like pets. We don't get a picture of what a wolf is like, because there's many different kinds of pets. There's a dog, there's a cat, there's lizards, there's birds, snakes, whatever. There's so many different pets that doesn't give us any sort of description or mental picture about what a wolf is like. So this is not a good example of a simile. Okay, next one is the metaphor. Now, a metaphor is like a simile in that they're both comparing two things. So they're both comparing two things. However, a metaphor does not use like or as. So that's the key difference. Simile, like or as, metaphor, no like or as, but you're still comparing two things. So let's look at our example here. The house is a playground. So we have our comparison. We have the house and we have the playground, and we're comparing the house to the playground. So when you're thinking playground, we think like elementary school, and we think that it's crazy and kids screaming and there's things going on everywhere. So if we were comparing the house to a playground, what is the first picture you get about the house? We think it's a pretty crazy place, that there are kids running around everywhere and screaming, and there's things being thrown around and people playing. So that would help us have a better picture of what the house looks like or what's going on inside the house. So let's look at our non-example. Our non-example is the house is a mess. Okay, well, we don't have like or as, and we're saying the house is something, but we're not comparing a mess. What does that look like? What does a mess look like? Well, there's many different messes. Many different ways to make a mess. There's clothing mess. There's like a mess of spilling a drink. There's a mess on our clothes. So we have to think about, well, what kind of mess is that? That doesn't really give us an accurate picture of what the house looks like. I mean, we can think mess, but what kind of mess exactly? So make sure that whenever you're using a metaphor or simile, whenever you compare the two things, it's going to be noun to noun. And that's an easy way to remember, or how to write a simile. So if you're looking at our example, so we have read. Read is a noun. It's a person, place, or a thing. Or reading. Or a verb, depending on how you use it. Like a wolf eats. So this is going to be our other noun. Okay, the wolf. And the wolf eating. And eating is a verb, because eating is something that you do, and verbs are doing things, like what we do. Okay, So then we have the metaphor here. We have the house, which is our noun, is the playground, which is another noun. So that's an easy way to look at it. So we have noun is a noun. Now if we look at our non-examples, the house is a mess. We have house, that's our noun. But mess is an adjective. Remember, adjectives describe things. So we're describing in this sentence. We're not comparing, we're describing. So we want to make sure that we're comparing two things. So an easy way to remember is noun to noun. Compare noun to noun. So the house, noun, is the playground, noun. Or we can look at our simile, which is read like a wolf eats. So we have reading, which depending on how you use that word, or book, read, depending on how you use it, noun, verb, to wolf eating, which is a noun and a verb. And that's what we're comparing it to. So it doesn't always have to be this way, but this is the simplest, most easy way to get our base writing for our similes and metaphors. So again, just to review, simile is comparing two things using like or as, and a metaphor is comparing two things not using like or as. They're both comparing, however, simile uses like or as, and metaphor does not.